new bill is being proposed by the state that could benefit Kenny Dillingham, but is now the time to do it?
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Thanks to all of you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. It's here, and if you don't want to miss a moment of the action, the College Football Playoff is presented by Allstate and begins with 4 first-round games on December 20th and December 21st, catching on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I am still sick as a dog. I don't know about you guys, I cannot shake this thing. And that is why I sound like a chain smoker, and it sounds worse than yesterday. But don't worry, because we still got a lot to talk about today. And when I say a lot, I mean buckle up and get ready for a lot of information that I'm going to throw your way. I'll be sure to walk you through it. My question at the top of the show: should Kenny Dillingham get that extension done? Should Dillingham do it for himself, and should ASU get that done? In order to discuss this, we got to take a look at the information that's in front of us. We got to take a look at why Kenny may or may not want to get this done. And then we're going to round out the show with a potential contract for him, according to Richie Bradshaw, who is clearly very good at these things. This is brand new information reported by Chris Cartman of Sun Devil Source yesterday. I'm going to read you the tweet exactly as it is. New: Arizona Senator TJ Shope told me he'll draft a bill that will request an increase in contract maximum length to 8 years from 5 years for state employees, with Kenny Dillingham a potential beneficiary. The bill would likely take months into 2025 to make its way through the process, so it may not have an immediate impact on the ongoing dialogue between Dillingham's agent and ASU about a potential contract extension, and or that I exclusively reported after the Big 12 title game. So this is something that is very beneficiary for Kenny Dillingham. It is something that will obviously extend a long-term contract extension. He is currently on a 5-year deal. We're going to talk about that a little later. At worst, they can add 5 more years onto that deal. Now, even though I'm going to propose my deal for you later, I'm not going to lie, I'm not really smart when it comes to that stuff. So I don't know if that would restructure the entirety of his first deal. I don't know if that would just add on to it. I don't know if it would replace it. That's something that they would decide. I can pretend I know that stuff because of free agency in the NFL, but end of the day, that's not my forte. What I do know is Kenny's got a 5-year extension. As of now, he would be able to get another 5 years. And again, that could replace these 5 years, or it could be added onto it. So he could be up for 10 years if they were to get this done as soon as possible. And again, my question that we're going to explore throughout the show is this the time to get it done? For Kenny, again, you're talking about getting a long-term contract done. One of the biggest fears that ASU has, one of the biggest speculations that the national media has, and one of the biggest hopes and dreams that other programs have, is that they can snipe Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State University. I've been very vocal, and I have said, Kenny's not going anywhere. We are going to be just fine. He's a lifer. This is his dream job. He grew up in the Valley. When he described getting the job, right? Flashback to December of 2022, when he had his opening press conference to introduce himself. He was literally in tears with how happy he was. He's not leaving. He's not going anywhere. Now that doesn't mean that you're going to sit on your hands and wait for this contract to end. You should not be waiting until 5 years is up. You need to get this done as soon as possible. You want Dillingham to stay here. You don't want him going anywhere. ASU is building something right now. And the longer that you can get him, the better. So it benefits both parties in the exact same way. ASU, they get to lock him up for a longer contract. So you could be looking at 5 years, or depending on how quickly this bill is passed. And again, I'm not an expert politician, but what I do know is bills take a little while to go through legislation. I don't know the process for Arizona compared to the federal level and all that good fun stuff. I don't know. But again, what I do know is these things take time. So we could be looking at this getting done in March. We could be looking at it getting done next December. Maybe it bleeds into 2026. I don't know, which is where you kind of wonder, like, how soon do you want to get this done? Is this a top priority to get Kenny extended as soon as possible? Or are one or both parties interested in waiting until that bill potentially gets passed? It's not a guarantee either. That's still got to go through the entire process that the state of Arizona has to approve different bills and laws and stuff like that. Do they want to wait that long and then they can do an 8-year contract? Do you want to get this done now, get 5 years in, and then revisit it, I don't know, 5 years from now, we'll say in 2030, when he will have gone through the final 3 years of his initial contract, and then that would be what, up in 2027? Yeah. So then 2028, 29, and 30, he's 3 years into that 5-year deal, which perfect. That's right about the time that you would want to give him that next extension. By then, you will know whether or not it's 5 years or 8 years. So you can always revisit it down the road and just make sure you get him done now. Or you could kick the can down the road and wait and see how this thing is going to play out. And that's a very real possibility for both parties. ASU may want to wait. The longer you keep Kenny here, the better. Kenny may want to wait. We're going to talk about why Kenny may want to wait in just a moment. But there is benefits for both sides. More than anything, it's to hold on to what you have. ASU has something special right now. What they are building, it's crazy. Look at the process from year 1 to year 2. 3-9 to 11-2, Big 12 champs, and a bye in the college football playoff. They're playing as hot as anyone right now. I'm not saying they're going to win a national championship, but what I will say is, why not? The only thing that's stopping ASU from winning a national championship right now with the way they're playing football is themselves. They're playing up to their competition this year. We've talked about this for weeks. You want that for a long time. You don't want to be the Cinderella team that puts it together this year and then falls off. Part of the way you're going to do that is by locking up all of your major pieces. You should have Sam Levitt back next year. You should have Jordan Tyson back next year. You are going to have your coordinators back. You're going to have the vast majority of this team back as well. Tons of starters on both sides of the football, too deep. There's a lot here. And if you retain some of your assistant coaches as well, Brian Carrington is at the top of my list, by the way, your defensive backs coach. You find a way to retain this roster and the staff, you're going to contend again next year. And then your recruiting classes are only going to continue to get better. Remember, in 2026, they already have Jake Fetty, a quarterback in Texas, committed to the program. He's a 4-star. There's time for him to turn into a 5-star, depending on how he plays. They're already getting ahead of the game. They've had multiple 4-stars each of these last 2 recruiting cycles. They're building something here. You want to have that for as long as you can. Kenny Dillingham wants that job security. there's a chance that there's really good money in this as well. That's something we'll talk about towards the end of the podcast, like I said, when I negotiate a deal with Kenny Dillingham. And of course, ASU, keep him. Keep him. You do not want other programs to poach him. Because I promise you, someone throws $15 million at Kenny Dillingham, you have to listen at worst. Doesn't mean he's taking it, but he's got an agent and they're going to be in his ear of like, this is a really good opportunity to take your career to the next level. They want to get this done as soon as possible. But again, my question, does Kenny Dillingham want to get this done as soon as possible? That's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I hope you guys are using FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook at this point in time, because we talk about it pretty much every day. And they get you ready for NFL action. You got college football, basketball, everything that you need all in one place. And new customers, you bet $5, you can get $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. That can be on anything. It can be a money line, a player prop, a spread, whatever. And if you're doing a bet live, well, I got even better news for you. The FanDuel Sportsbook app, you're going to open it up. You are going to have everything you need to be confident in that live bet. When you get that hunch, you want to hop on it. So take a look at the app. It's going to show you live stats. It's going to show you a play-by-play and so much more. That way, you're going to be confident. By the way, it's all on the same page as those bets. Everything that you need in one place. Just go to FanDuel.com to join today. Again, new customers will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I also want to talk to you about our friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. What players are going to go off, which players are not going to go off. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a ton of fun. I can't recommend it enough. This is daily fantasy. It's daily fantasy that's accessible for everyone. You're going to pick more or less on at least 2 players. You can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long with PrizePicks. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. It's all over the place too. You don't need to worry about where you're at. There's over 30 states that have access to PrizePicks, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. You can make your holidays bigger and brighter with PrizePicks, the best place to get real money while watching your favorite sports. And again, you can win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. PrizePicks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this season. Join now, because this holiday season, PrizePicks is giving away 2 free picks in December. And they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Pickmas, if you will. Download the Gametime app, download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you place your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly after you place your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast to make it your first listen of the day. All right. We got plenty more to talk about here. And my biggest question that I started on the show, we kind of went over the details of why Kenny may be interested in getting that deal done with the new proposed bill. I talked about why ASU would love to get it done. The question is, should Dilly do it? Is now the time to do it? Here's some things to consider, because I know that sounds crazy. I know you're gonna hop to the comments and you're gonna say, Richie, that might be the craziest, stupidest thing you've ever said on this show, which is pretty remarkable, because I say a lot of crazy, stupid stuff on this show. But I like to think that's why you guys love me so much. Also, again, shout out you guys. Y'all are the best fans in the world. But there is some important things to consider here. Let's take a look at Kenny's contract. Kenny Dillingham signed a 5-year contract in 2022 when he was first hired on. He is making roughly $4 million per year. It's a 5-year contract. He started the 2023 season with an annual salary of $3.85 million. There's an annual increase in that contract. It goes up $100,000 every year. So this past season, this current season, I should say, $3.95 million, which means next year in 2025, he will be set to make $4.05 million. When this contract is up, he will be making $4.25 million. Check my math. I feel pretty confident about it, but I haven't taken a math class in like 12 years at this point. So not a bad deal, especially for a brand new head coach. There's also a ton of bonuses here. You got to remember that Kenny Dillingham made a lot of money this year. There was bonuses for the total number of wins. There was bonuses for any titles within your conference. There were bonuses for making the playoff. There may be some other stuff too. I'm not sure if playoff wins have it. I know a national championship has another bonus for him. So he's not done yet. There's potential for Kenny to make even more money. He's already made a couple $1 million in these bonuses. In fact, he has made the second most money in bonuses on top of the annual salary, only behind Jim Harbaugh last year with Michigan when he won a national championship. He got like over $3 million. It might have been closer to $4 million in bonuses because he did so much damage with Michigan. Good damage. This is something that Kenny Dillingham is no doubt going to be negotiating within his with his agent, I should say, going into the next time that he sits down with whoever does that. I imagine it's still going to be Graham Rossini and Michael Crow, but there may be other factors in it. I don't know that stuff. I'm not going to pretend to know that stuff. Here's some other stuff that we know. This season, at worst, Kenny Dillingham has caught lightning in a bottle. 11 wins for ASU. They have not had a 10-win season, let alone an 11-win season in a decade. This team is exceptional. They've exceeded every single expectation given to them by the media, by coaches, by players, by the fans, everybody. I've said this before on the podcast. I always double down on it because I love it. Even the craziest, most delusional fans never saw this coming. And if you did, then I love you to pieces. You are my favorite fan. I didn't see this coming. I was hopelessly optimistic coming into this year. At least I thought I was. I said 7-5. Yeah, 11-2 was not on my bingo card, yet here we are. There's still the opportunity, like we mentioned, for more bonuses to come in the direction of Kenny Dillingham. So this isn't a bad contract for him. So why does all this matter? I know that's your next question. Richie, that's all basic information about a contract that's not even going to be relevant once he signs the extension. So why does this matter? Well, more bonuses means more success. The success means a higher payday to negotiate. So he may want to play out this year. And he may want to play out next year, when this team will be, in theory, just as good and might be better, because you're returning so much and they're going to be adding a lot too. And you're retaining your staff. You're going to have the backing of the Valley. NIL is going to skyrocket. You might be better next year. So let's say that you decide, no, I'm gonna go one more year on this current deal. Not so much bet on yourself, right? Because Kenny has bet on himself and he's hit the jackpot. He made well over $5 million this year with the bonuses and his base salary of the $3.95 million. He has made plenty of money for what he was supposed to be getting paid. So he could, he could do it again. He could kick this can down the road for another season and say, one, I might be waiting for that potential 8-year extension because that is a very realistic possibility. And we just talked about it. Like ASU would love to lock him up for 3 more years on top of the 5 that they can max him out at currently before that bill hopefully gets passed. Definitely, manifesting it, knock on wood, all that good stuff. Kenny may want to do that as well. So he doesn't necessarily have to force himself to pull the trigger on an extension. There's also the possibility that other programs will try and poach Kenny, which that's the whole point of trying to get this contract done, right? You don't want to lose him because of the way he is guiding your program. That is like no nonsense. That cannot happen under any circumstance. But that does play into negotiations. We see it all the time in sports with these players and coaches too. They'll get these offers and they'll hear from, we're going to use the NFL an example. Let's say, who's up for extension? Let's say Jamar Chase, all-pro receiver for the Bengals. He's due for an extension. He has not signed one yet. You can think of that whatever you will. This offseason, one, he's going to get hit with the franchise tag. He's not going anywhere. But in a scenario where he isn't, we'll say some other player gets it. I don't know who their free agents are, but we'll just make this scenario. He's not hit with the franchise tag. He's going to explore his options. And we'll say a team with a ton of cap space like the New England Patriots are going to offer him a 5-year deal that would make him the highest paid receiver in the NFL. I don't have that number in front of me, so we're going to make one up. We're going to say it'd be 5 years, $50 million a year. Well, the Bengals were offering him 5 years, $40 million a year. Well, now you got to figure it out because the Bengals don't want Jamar Chase to leave, but you know what? They couldn't get a deal done beforehand. Now their hand is forced to add more money. Back to this situation. Kenny Dillingham could wait longer and let the market continue to climb. As we round out the show, we're going to hop into this in just a moment. You're going to see that there are some very rich coaches in college football, some that are very worthy, and I'm not going to lie, some that had me scratching my head of like, how on earth are you making this kind of money? Again, we'll jump into that in just a moment as we round out the show. But Kenny may be really, really interested, and his agent may be in his ear as well, of, we don't got to sign an extension right now. We still have 3 more years of this contract. Things are only going to get better. You string together consecutive double-digit win seasons, consecutive appearances in the Big 12, consecutive opportunities to go to the college football playoff. Your number just went up because now you're proving that you're not a one-year wonder. You're not that Cinderella team. You're not lightning in a bottle. Well, no, you're just a program builder. And ASU is only going to get better. That's something that he can prove. And again, you negotiate, your number skyrockets. You go from potentially negotiating, let's say $6 million a year right now. We're going to get into it. It's a lot more than that. Let's say it's $6 million right now. You have another season like that. Not saying you double that number, but you're going to be a lot closer to $10 million. Speaking of which, what is a potential good contract for him? I'm glad you asked because the expert in negotiating contracts, let me try it again. The expert, if you're on YouTube, I put it in quotations, fire the laser kind of thing. It's what I would take a look at on paper that makes sense to me. I am going to extend Kenny Dillingham. That's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's that time of year. The college football playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff. It's presented to you on AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern. Leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battle out the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. One last time, I just want to express my love and my gratitude for each and every single one of you for tuning in to make Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. All right. It's time. It's time for me to put on my general manager hat, and I am going to get Kenny Dillingham the extension that he deserves. We have to start, excuse me. We have to start by looking at not so much the market, but basically finding a baseline. The top 10 highest paid coaches in the NFL, in college football are all making $10 million or more. Is it top 10? Or is it just outside? It's just outside of the top 10. It's the top 5 are making over $10 million. And your lowest paid of the top 10 is just over $9 million. Fun fact, that's Mark Stoops at Kentucky. You know, the guy who just had like the worst season in the SEC this year. Explain that to me, but neither here nor there. Top 10 coaches making over $9 million. Top 5 are making over $10 million. Your top 5 goes like this. Number 1, Kirby Smart. He has a fat $13 million contract. It's significantly ahead of everyone. Number 2, Dabo Swinney. He's making just over $11 million a year. Number 3, Steve Sarkisian, $10.6 million, by the way. Lincoln Riley at USC, just over $10 million a year. Ryan Day at Ohio State, just over $10 million a year. The top 2 guys, Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney, have won multiple national championships. It's not a wonder that they are as high as they are. The next 3, Steve Sarkisian, Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day. Those are guys who are program builders and can make contenders more often than not. We're not going to hop into the Lincoln Riley or Ryan Day conversation, or Steve Sarkisian, I suppose. We're not going to hop into that. That's not what we're here for. The point is, your top 5, they are $10 million for a reason. They are consistently, besides Lincoln Riley, having their programs contending for national titles and going to the college football playoff. Your lowest coach, again, Mark Stoops at Kentucky, is making over $9 million. There's stuff that could factor into it. 1, he's got a big name. Last name Stoops, pretty prestigious in college football history. You're also at Kentucky, which is an SEC program that can shell out a little more money than some of the other guys. The 2 coaches behind him by the way, are Elia Drinkwitz from Missouri and Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Lane Kiffin's there too at Ole Miss. Each of those 3 are making $9 million. So there is your baseline for what those coaches are making. Your baseline is officially $9 million. That's where it will start for Kenny Dillingham. Even based off of 1 year, and God forbid if he does it multiple years, it's only going to go up. But $9 million is where the baseline starts. Like I said, Sarkisian, Riley, Day mostly are building title contenders. There's other guys in the top 10. Mike Norvell, Kalen DeBoer, Brian Kelly are also in that category of building contenders. All of them have been. Actually, no, Kelly has not been to the college football playoff, right? He went to an SEC championship game. Did he go with Notre Dame, though? I don't think so. But DeBoer is gone. Norvell is gone. They are also in that category of building contenders. And one last time, these coaches are making over $9 million in your top 12. Brian Kelly is the least expensive of that category we just made of building title contenders, and he's just under $10 million. Your question that you have to ask yourself here: How far off is Kenny Dillingham from being a title contender on an annual basis, the way that these guys are? That is going to be what decides how much you're paying Kenny Dillingham. Are you willing to go up to $10 million? That's kind of the not so much the best case scenario. It's probably best case scenario for ASU. Kenny might be able to command a little bit more. The problem is the top two guys, Dabo Sweeney and Kirby Smart, like I said, they have won multiple national championships. That's why they are over $11 million and over $13 million. Dillingham is not there. He's not even close. He's got a long ways to go before he gets multiple national titles. So he's going to be in that 10 million range. Sarkisian is 10.6 million on the dot. Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day are right there at 10 million. And then Norvell, DeBoer, Brian Kelly are all right there with Kelly being the quote-unquote cheapest, just under $10 million. The things that are working for Kenny to be able to negotiate that kind of high-paying contract. First of all, they're already contending. So you talk about building title contenders, Kenny's done it in 2 years. Think about these coaches. Sarkisian inherited a Texas program that had the name brand, but they had been underachieving for well over a decade. He builds that program up very, very quickly. Lincoln Riley, the dude recruits out of his mind. He's no doubt underwhelmed. Ryan Day inherits Ohio State. He keeps them afloat from where they are. All the other coaches are able to make their respective programs contenders as well. But none of them have done it as quickly as Dillingham has, and none of them have rebuilt such a bad program the way that Kenny Dillingham has done in such a short amount of time. He's also got a young roster. They are going to compete next year when they return the vast majority of this team and the vast majority of the coaching staff. They will contend next year. Their recruiting is getting better every year. They are set up for long-term success. So you check off the building a contender. You check off the future success that Kenny Dillingham needs to earn a big contract. Here's where I come in. I am going to propose a 5-year contract because for me, I want this done ASAP. I'm going to offer him over $9 million. I'd put it under 10. I would try and get somewhere in that Brian Kelly spot. I, of course, decided to delete the page. Brian Kelly is 9th. He is making $9.975 million. I would love to match that if I am ASU. Because Kelly's done it for years at this point. He was super successful at Notre Dame. He took him to a national championship game. He has been plenty successful at LSU, which includes a Heisman Trophy winner on that resume. Getting Kenny that money, that's worth it to me. And it shows from the program that we value you the same way that other programs are valuing long-term successful head coaches. I also need to make sure that there are several bonuses that will get him north of $10 million. This is going to be all the stuff that is included right now in his current deal. Wins, titles, playoff appearances, national championships. That is heavily incentivized for me in this contract. When you have elite seasons like this one, just stack that money for him. I don't care what it is. I don't know if $200,000 for winning a Big 12 title is worth it, but you're just going to find a way to make it so that on top of making $9 million, north of $9 million, there's an opportunity for him to get into the double digits as long as he continues to have this sustained success that we saw this year. Bottom line, now is the time for both parties to do this, in my opinion. For ASU, get it done now. Get it done now. Give him the bag and don't let it get more expensive. They're going to get it done no matter what. They could do it in 5 years when he's going to be making 11 or 12 million at that point. He's not going anywhere. But if you can get him for, I don't know, 9.5, 9.6 million, that's going to look really good down the stretch. Get it done now, and do not let any other programs have the opportunity to get in his ear and negotiate bigger contracts. And then for Kenny, if ASU falls off, and that's entirely possible because they exceeded expectations this year, and even returning all that talent next year doesn't guarantee the success. I'll tell you it does because I'm a fan. He's not guaranteed the same success next year. So you need to capitalize while this program is red hot, because you might not have a better chance to make nearly as much money right now as you could next year. Sure, you could, but are you willing to take the chance that you fall off and now you're not worth as much as you were before? That's my stance on it. What do you guys think? Give me a contract that you would negotiate. If you're smarter than me, tell me exactly how you would put it together. I'm always interested to learn that stuff. Where do you stand? Should they get this done right now, or should they wait? Should they wait to make sure it's sustained success? Should they wait to get 8 years from that proposed bill? You let me know in the comments what you guys think. Oh my goodness. My apologies for this. Hopefully I'm better tomorrow. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. You can hit me up on Twitter at RichieBrats36. The podcast is there at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you get your shows, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications. You get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate all of you for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Shout out my everydayers who are here every day. We are really close to the college football playoff kicking off this weekend. We are going to have all eyes on Clemson versus Texas. I've got opinions on which team I would rather play, which team makes sense for ASU, which one I think ASU has the best chance of beating. We're going to talk about that either tomorrow or Friday, depending on if any news breaks. But that's coming up this week, so make sure your notifications are on so you get the update when that episode drops. I will catch you guys next time, and until then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.